Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well and staying safe. In this video I'm going to be updating the React project with Threejs that I used for the globe. This is the newer application. As you can see, I've changed quite a bit. So before we just had the points. In the previous video we added the points, had the modal pop up, and it still has the name here. Now I've added names, so it actually takes text and adds it to the points. It looks like a bit much, and I actually intentionally left it this way because for the second portion of which I'm about to get to, it's going to kind of fix that. But this is just to show you, that you can add names and they're on the same geographic location of where the posts were. And then if we go back to points, the names disappear, but if we go back to names, the names reappear. And you still have the posts and everything loading. So in the second globe, as you can see here, I've also added navigation. So in the second globe, this is going to be a newer one that I'm currently in process of. So just as a base model, it's going to be using polygons, and if we add names here, it only shows the names for various countries. We can increase and decrease the minimum area, so the less minimum area, the more countries it'll show. The more minimum area, the less countries will show, and then the max visible dot is whatever is within the range of the dot. So if you have negative, nothing's going to be there, but the more bigger the dot, the more countries will be there. Like so. This code is not necessarily written by me. Whenever I first learned Threejs, I used the Threejs fundamentals to help me learn just how to create a basic setup and everything. But if you take a look at the version of Threejs, he's Greg, the person who made the code, and all rights to Greg for this because it's basically his code. I just made it for React, but and updated. But he's using version 105, and I am using in my library 141. So there's definitely been some changes to Threejs since when he made this, and so I just yeah, this is not my code necessarily. Obviously I changed this portion. I'm using sliders, whereas he's just using the DAT GUI, which it's a bit, I don't know, it's just not exactly appealing. So anyways, this link will be in the description, and because it's navigation, I can always go back between the two, and no matter what, it's just going to re-render the different globes. There's no residual data left over. So that said, let's get into the code changes. So this is where we left off with the React globe. We click on points, we hover over it, and we get all the information here. So inside of here, I'm going to begin with the globe portion. In order to get the rendering of the div with the names, we are going to import CSS2D and CSS2DObject from, and then it's going to be three examples JSM renderers, and then it's going to be CSS 2D render.js. Add inside of here, we want to have two Boolean functions to be if the names are active. So name active, by default it's going to be false, and then if the labels have been added, also false. Function to add the points, so I'm going to say this dot add embassy points names is equal to this dot add embassy points names dot bind this, and then we want to remove children, and then I'm also going to add a second one at the bottom, which is going to be remove names, so this dot remove names is equal to this dot remove names dot bind this. Inside my component now, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change for the create scene, but I am going to add an updated function for whenever we want to update the component, because whenever we add the names and labels, we're going to want to make sure that the component updates accordingly. So I'm going to say component did update. Inside of here, I'm going to say if this dot state dot points added. So if the points are added, then I am going to do a try catch. So try this dot remove names catch, and then inside here it's going to be an error console.log, and then I'm just going to say no name is active. So this is going to check to see if there are names to be added. If yes, then it's going to remove them. Otherwise, it's going to give a console.log saying it's not active. And I'm going to say otherwise, else if this dot state dot name active. So if the name is active, this dot I'm going to say the label renderer dot DOM element dot hidden is equal to false, and we're going to instantiate this in the next area here, where it's going to be create scene. So inside my create scene, I have my renderer right here, and then I'm going to add my label renderer, which is this CSS2D object. So I'm going to say this dot label renderer is equal to new CSS2D object 2D renderer. Say this dot label renderer dot set size is going to be equal to window dot inner width window dot inner height, and then I'm going to have this dot label renderer dot DOM element dot style dot position is going to equal absolute, and then I'm just going to copy this one more time. So then I'm going to say the top is going to be at 0 pixels, 0 px, and then I'm going to have the document element class name be equal to label renderer, and then I want to give it the ID, the same thing, and then I want to have its hidden equal to false, which is this right up here, because I want it to be shown. Then I want to do this dot mount, and then inside of here dot append child, because what I want to do is append the renderer to this. So I'm going to say this dot label renderer dot DOM element, this right here. So this is going to add the label renderer for our labels to be made. I'll just keep it like that. And so we're going to skip all of here. The skybox stays the same, the rest stays the same. The add scene objects is going to change. So inside the add scene objects, I'm going to pass in a type. And then we're still going to get the data, still going to let output be the same, still have the array, which is accessible by everything within the class. So then inside of here, I'm going to say if type triple equals, and then I'm going to pass in a variable name. In this case, it's going to be MSC no names. Then I'm going to return all of this. And then I'm going to say else if, and then the type triple equals to embassy with names. Then I am going to copy all of this, paste it all in here, and then I'm going to create a function called this.add particles with names. And then I'm just going to change all of that. Embassy with names, I'm going to have if this.state.labels added is equal to false. Then I'm going to add I'm going to add the data in. Otherwise, else if this dot state dot labels added is equal to true, then I am simply going to let label equal document dot get element by ID, and then I'm going to say label renderer, and I'm going to say label dot hidden is equal to false. So now we have to add the particles with names, which essentially is just this whole function that add coordinates. But instead of, and then we're going to create a temporary array. So const temp is equal to a temporary array. Obviously you cannot have a string there. And the radius is going to be 10. We have phi, we have theta. And so then right here, I'm going to change this a little bit. So I'm going to move this up here. And then I'm going to say const position attribute is equal to this dot particle mesh. I'm going to change this to let, or this dot particle geometry. So position attribute is equal to this dot particle geometry dot get attribute position. And then I'm going to have the vertex come down here. And then I'm going to have a for loop. So say for let I is equal to 0, I is less than position attributes dot count I plus plus. So then inside of here, I'm going to have this do vertex dot from buffer attribute get the position attributes sub I. Then I'm going to have the vertexes be added, and then I'm going to have temp.push vertex.x y and z, and then I'm going to have the position attributes dot set x, y, z to I vertex dot x vertex dot y vertex dot z. So that's going to set all of the positions, and then we are not going to be creating any materials or anything like this. This is simply to get the simply to make the div, which then I'm going to say this dot earth div is equal to document dot get element by ID, or dot create element. It's just going to be a simple div. And then I'm going to say this dot earth div dot class name is equal to labels. And this dot earth div dot text content is equal to name, which I believe in this case is going to be the post. Whoa, just give me the post. And then I'm going to have this dot earth div dot style dot margin top be equal to -1 em, and then I'm going to have this dot earth label is equal to a new CSS2D object, where I'm going to add this dot earth div inside of it, and then I want to have this dot earth label dot position dot set be equal to temp sub 0, which is x, temp sub 1, which is y, and temp sub 2, which is z. And then I want to add this dot earth sphere, but instead of the particle mesh, which would actually be our particle geometry, I'm just going to simply add the label. So then, in the next section, I'm going to copy the add embassy points and paste it here. So now I want to have, so for the embassy points, actually, I'm going to pass in the variable because now we have type being passed in. So I'm going to say embassy no names, and then for the embassy points names, I'm going to have, let's see here, so title points, and then I want to have name active set to false, and then in this one I want to have title active set to false, points added set to false, and then name active set to true. So I also want to remove the children, and then, that sounds bad, but then I'm going to add the scene objects. In this case, I'm going to say embassy with names. Children, and then underneath here, I'm going to add the remove names, which is going to be equal, it's going to be an arrow function, and then I'm going to say let labels equal document dot get element by ID label renderer, and then say labels dot hidden is equal to true. So then we don't have to do anything for the mouse move. For the start animation, we want to add the label renderer. So say this dot label renderer dot render, and then this dot scene, this dot camera. Let's see, how does this look so far? Yeah, well, it would help if I could spell embassy. Inside of our render function, we're going to have title points added. Then we're going to have const name active is equal to this dot state dot name active. And then we're going to have the title, because we're changing the title too, so const title name is equal to point globe. And then we want the author name equal to David, or your name here. So then in the return method right here, we're going to add in our div, that doesn't change, our title. We're going to pass in title name is equal to title name, and then author name is equal to author name. Then points added, if points are hovered, then we're going to have country name box. That doesn't change. Points hovered, otherwise just leave that. Then say modal, country modal, data, country data, close modal, event is equal to this dot close modal event, otherwise. And then we're going to have name active is equal to name active. Then add empty points, and then we're just going to copy these two lines, and then right down here we're going to say text2 is going to be names, and then the add MC points is going to be add embassy points. Names with add embassy points names. So let's go to the button box. Inside of our button box, what we want to do is handle point click, and then we want to have a second function called handle name click. Handle name click for both, and then we want to add embassy points names. So then down here, we're going to have inside of here our div class name styles. So then in here I'm going to make a change. So I'll say this dot props dot text 1. If that's the case, then I want to return an empty a component, and I want to return this right here, the button. Otherwise, I want to just return an empty rack component. Then I'm going to have right here this dot props dot text2. If that's the case, then I want to have this dot handle name click, then this dot props dot text2, and then I also want to have the break right above it. And I need to fix this because it's going to drive me crazy. Okay, there's that, and there's that. Otherwise, I want to return an empty React component. I just didn't change the name. Add particles with names. And there we go. There's the particles with names. Now if we do points, we have points here. Points, click. It doesn't load the data for some reason. Oh, it just takes some time to load the data, I guess. Or maybe there is no data for Quito. No, it's the by Bogota. Okay. Anyways, so we have this, then we do names, and voila, there's the names. It's pretty straightforward, minus some hiccups, and then there's that. So we have updated that, and if we refresh, we now have this, which I need to fix the title. So inside the title, as you can see, we are passing in the props title name and author name. So instead of React Globe, it's going to be this dot props dot title name, and then it's going to be this dot props dot author name. Save this, refresh, boom, there we have it. So then that is basically the updated globe for points. And now what we need to do is, we don't need to mess with that. We're going to be copying some of this, basically copying most of this. So now we are going to come over here to the components. We're going to create a new folder. So inside of here, we're going to call this globe with polygons, and then inside the globe with polygons, we're going to create two files, globe with polygons.jsx, and then globe with polygons.module.css. And then, just so that we can get this taken care of inside the components, we'll create a new folder, and with that we're going to call this navigation bar, which it's more like a navigation tab, but still. So we're going to create a new file, navigation bar.jsx, and then navigation bar.module.css. And then the last component that we're going to make is the slider box. So new folder, call this slider box. Then we're going to create a new file, slider box.jsx, and then slider box.module.css. So these are going to be the new components that we're going to use. Let me begin with, I guess, the slider component. So I guess let me just copy this over, and then let me copy the class button box component, and then let me do the render export default. And then this is going to be called slider box here. So then we're going to import the component. We're going to import styled, but we're going to do it from at MUI system, and then we're going to import styles, and then we're going to import slider, here we go, slider typography from, and it's going to be at MUI material. Const custom slider is equal to styled, and then it's going to be slider, which then is going to be a theme, and then it's going to be an arrow function, the slider, so it's going to be at MUI slider. And then let's go to the demo, because this is actually where I got the code from. Inside of here, we have the Preto. So on this website at MUI.com, Mature UI React Slider, there's going to be this show source button, and all I did was copy the slider information from here. Oh. And it looks like that worked, except I think I am missing one end parenthesis right here. There you go. So I just basically copied all of this and put it right there. Cool. So that's the slider component. So then inside the slider component, I'm going to instantiate a constructor props, and then I'm going to say super props, and I'm going to have a function called this.change slider settings is equal to this dot change slider settings dot bind this, and then super props and then I'm going to have change slider settings is equal to default value text, and then it's going to be an arrow function. Let's say default value. This is not working. Default value dot prevent default. Prevent default. Say this dot props dot, and then there's call function 1. It's going to be default value text, because I'm going to pass in the slider box function called function 1. So inside my render, I'm going to change that in a second, but basically it is going to be div and div. Inside this div, I'm going to have the class name equal to styles.sliderBoxTitle. So then I'm going to input here typography, and then for my typography I'm going to have the ID is equal to settings, the gutcher bottom is equal to true, then I'm going to have variant is going to be equal to h6, and I'm going to have the settings put right here. That's going to be the header, and then I'm going to have a div right here. This is going to be class name equal to styles.sliderBoxItems, and then it's going to be typography the ID is going to be equal to min area, gutter bottom is equal to true, and then I'm just going to pass in this dot props dot text1 because I want to make this reusable, and then I'm going to have my custom slider with the area label equal to min area. The default value is going to be equal to this dot props dot min area, which is what I'm going to pass in, and have the value label display is equal to auto. Step is going to equal 1. The min is going to equal 0. Max is going to equal 50. On change is going to equal default value, and then it's going to be an arrow function to this dot change slider settings default value min area. And then I want to have this enabled equal to true. And then I'm going to copy this and paste it. Oh, whoa. Paste it, and then instead of min area, it's going to be max visible dot text2, and this is going to be max visible dot, and then instead of step is going to be 1, it's going to be 0.01, minimum is going to be -1, and maximum is going to be 1. Cool. So that should be the slider box, and then let's go to the polygon, globe with polygon. So the globe with polygon is essentially the globe.jsx, so you just copy all of it and paste it in. But then we're going to call this globe with polygons. And obviously there's going to be some things changed, but there are going to be some things changed. So first and foremost, we're not really going to be using any styles, but we can keep it here. We are going to be using orbit controls. we're going to be using the renderer, we're going to be having title, the button box, and then we're using slider box, which we need to add to our index.js. So inside of here, before I forget, do export slider box, and then we're going to do slider box. Oh, so I do need to add the slider box, CSS. So let me do that really quick. So dot slider box, background color is going to be black, and then we have position is going to be fixed. So it's actually essentially it's going to be this. That's what the slider box is, just that. Black, flex, fixed, but instead of height being 20, it's going to be 30%. The width we have at 15, but instead of the bottom, it's going to be actually top at 5%. And then the right, again, 5%, center, white, 10%, and opacity. And then we have the slider box title. So dot slider box title. Position is going to be fixed. Display is going to be flex. Flex direction is going to be column. Height is going to be 15%. Width is going to be 90%. And then top is going to be 8%. And align items is going to be center. Then we have dot slider box items. Position is fixed. Display is flex. Flex direction is going to be column. Width is going to be 15%. And then align items is going to be center. So that should take care of the slider box. I'll keep that open just in case. So let's go back to polygons, globe with polygons. So we have title, button box, and slider box. We are going to need the data, which I will put inside of the, which I'll link to the finished button box module CSS. Oh, whoops, slider box. It's be slider box dot module dot CSS. Okay. So then I'll link the data in the but it's essentially this. So copy that data, and I'm going to paste it inside of my data here. And then that's all this. And then there's actually a image here, which I need. It's going to be the country outlines, so copy that. And I'll paste that inside of my images folder here. Yeah, that's just basically the polygon type data. So you should have that if you go to the repository, which I'll link. So I do use the skybox. I'm not using any of the Earth stuff, but I am importing the country outlines from. Then go back to the parent folder, go to assets, go to images, and then it's going to be country outlines 4k.png. So then inside of here, all we're going to have is the title active, is data loaded, and then the min area is going to be set to 20, and then the max visible dot just set to negative 0.2. We can get rid of all this other stuff because we're not going to use it. Then inside of here, we're going to say this dot update visible elements, and we're going to equal this dot update visible elements by dot bind this. This is going to be the function that's going to allow us to update all of those elements inside of the sliders. So inside of here, I can have create scene, start animation, window dot add event listener resize. I'm going to say this dot controls dot add event listener, and then it's going to be on change this dot update visible elements. So there's not going to be any component did update. We can get rid of that because the component's going to update whenever we do that. And then we're going to add a component will unmount. Will unmount, and then for the unmount we want to add a window dot dot remove event listener resize, and then this dot controls dot add so I'm going to remove the event listener. We don't need to have this here, but we do need to have a window dot cancel animation frame. This dot request ID, and then this dot controls dot dispose. So then we're going to create the scene. So inside of here, we're going to have a new 3 scene. The camera, instead of 75, is going to be at 60. FOV, this is still going to be the same. Instead of 0.1, that's going to be the same. It's going to be at 10. Then we're going to have the camera position. Instead of being at 20, it's going to be at 2.5. And then the controls, we're going to have that. We're going to enable zoom, and then we're going to disable zoom. We're going to enable damping, and then we're going to have enable pan set to false. And then we want to have the minimum and max distance. So min distance is going to be set to 1.2, and then the max distance is going to be set to 4 exactly. Then the renderer is going to be the same, and then we're going to add all of that. Come down to the earth, it's going to be different. So we're going to have const country outline map is equal to new 3 texture loader dot load, and then it's going to be country outlines. That's going to be new. We don't need any of this because we're not going to use that. Then the earth geometry is going to be, instead of 10, it's going to be 16432. Earth material is just going to be map, country outline map, and then the specular is going to be gray. That's it. Then we want to have the mesh, earth geometry, material, earth sphere, scene. That's all good. So then the skybox, obviously want to keep that. And then we're going to scrap we're going to change this. So instead of adding objects, we're going to just say add objects. And then it's not going to be passed in anything. And actually before that, I need to create a conversion called degrees to radians is equal to degrees. And then it's going to be return degrees times math.pi divided by 180. So then inside of here, I'm going to say console.log that the add objects started. So then inside of here, I'm going to say const temp v is equal to new 3.vector 3, and then I'm going to have two more vector 3s. One is going to be camera to point, and then one is going to be camera position. And then I want a normal matrix, so const normal matrix is equal to new 3.matrix3. Then const large is equal to this.state.min area times this.state.min area. Then I want the normal matrix dot get normal matrix of this dot camera dot matrix world inverse, and say this dot camera dot get world position, camera position. Then I'm going to go through and add the polygon data, which let me go to my let me go to the API. Let's see here. So for the API, index.js, inside of the API, let me just change this right quick. So import polygon data from data country to merge JSON. Then we want to add a second function here. Oh my goodness. Here we go. And instead of fetch my data, I'm going to call this fetch polygon data. Response is just going to be polygon data. So then that will get the polygon data, which if I go to my app.js, in my app.js, I need to import fetch my data fetch polygon data. Then inside of here, I'm going to say my data polygon data, and then I'm going to say polygon active false, point active true. Component did mount, I'm going to const fetch polygon data is equal to, where'd it go? Fetch polygon data, and then polygon data is going to equal fetched polygon data, and then inside of here I'm going to have change to globe event, which is going to be equal to event type if type triple equals point, and console.log point this dot set state point point active true, polygon active false, else if type equals to polygon, then it's going to be the same thing. Polygon active, point active. So then inside my renderer, I'm going to have my data polygon data, polygon active, and actually I'm just going to say point active. Then inside here, it's going to be div. I have the navigation bar, which I haven't done yet, but so I think the div, I can just do point active. Then I want to have the globe. Otherwise, I want to have globe with polygons. And then I think that just imported globe with polygons. Which it should actually be from there. And then it's going to be globe with polygons. And then I'm going to have polygon data equal to polygon data, and then it's just going to end there. And that should be polygons. It's not found in components, and that's because it's not inside of my index.js. So inside my globe, say globe with polygons. Yeah, okay. So now that that's taken care of, let me get to my globe with polygons. So with my globe with polygons, I'm going to have a const this.props.polygon data, which is what I'm passing in right here, polygon data. Say let output is equal to objects. Okay, that's going to stay the same. And then I'm going to have I'm going to get rid of all this because this is not needed. I think it goes down to there. Yeah. So I'm going to say console.log label parent element. Say this dot country infos is equal to this dot vals for const country info of this dot country infos be const lat lon min max name is equal to country info, then const width is equal to max sub 0 minus min sub 0, then const height is equal to max sub 1 minus min sub 1, then const area is equal to width times height, and country info dot area is equal to area. So this is going to add a new feature for country intro, add additional data for country intro, then say then I'm just going to copy from the globe the code right inside of here. So it's const radius, and then we'll actually just need particles. Just going to copy this code, and then paste it inside of here. Whoops. What I'm going to do is tab. So the radius is not 10, it's going to be 1. This is going to phi and theta are going to stay the same. Instead of particle geometry, I'm going to call this particle mesh. Actually, no, I can just keep it as geometry. This is going to be 1, 64, 32, because that's the same as what we're making above. Get the position, get the vertex, and then inside of here, vertex on buffer attribute, that stays the same. The x, y, z is going to stay the same because it's going to just get the x, y, z coordinates. Then inside of here, we have the earth div. We're going to add the earth label to that, and then right down here, we're going to say country info dot position is equal to this dot earth label dot position, and then we're going to say country info dot element or elem is equal to this dot earth div, and then inside of here it's going to be the first instantiation of min distance max visible dot. So if area is less than large, country info dot elem dot style dot display is equal to none. Then country info dot lm dot hidden is going to be equal to true. I'm going to continue. And then after this, I'm going to have country info dot lm dot hidden is going to equal false, because if it's not inside that range, I'm going to have it set visible. I'm going to have temp v dot copy country info dot position. We will have temp v dot apply matrix 3 set to normal matrix. Then camera to point dot copy country info dot position. Then camera to point dot apply matrix 4 this dot camera dot matrix rolled inverse, and then dot normalize that. Then const dot is equal to temp v dot camera to point. And I'm say if the dot is greater than this dot state dot max visible dot, then I want to have country info dot one moment, I need to make sure this is spelled correctly. Country info. Okay. That should be capitalized. There we go. So country info max visible dot element dot style dot display is equal to none, and just to make sure, we're going to say country info dot lm dot hidden is equal to true. Continue, and then outside of here, if it's not within, if the dot is less than that, then we're going to say country info dot lm dot hidden is equal to false. Then country info dot lm dot style dot display is equal to blank. Make sure you spell display correctly. Then we have temp v dot copy country info dot position. Then temp v dot project this dot camera. Then const x is equal to temp v dot x times 0.5 plus 0.5 times window dot inner width, and then the same is going to be, well, then we can have const y temp v dot y is going to be negative 0.5 plus, and then it's going to be inner height. And then we're going to have country info dot lm dot style dot transform equal to And inside the tilde key, translate negative 50%, negative 50%, translate and be $x pixels by $y pixels, and then want the country country info .lm .style .z index is equal to negative temp v .z times 0.5 plus 0.5, that's be times 100,000, and then I want to have this dot set state title active false, data loaded true. So that's going to be that, and then we don't need the add coordinates, but we do want to update the visible elements. So I'm just going to here, get rid of this, and get rid of all this, change this to update visible elements, and then inside here I'm going to pass value and type. I'm going to say if this dot state dot data loaded, and then I'm going to say if type is equal to max visible dot, then I'm going to say this dot set state is max visible dots to value dot target dot value, and then I'm going to say else if type triple equals to min area, this dot set state min area, it's going to be value dot target dot value. And then inside of here, I'm just going to copy all this code from, I'm going to copy from const temp v to the camera position, excuse me, and then I'm going to copy from for const country infos all the way down here, but I'm going to remove some of the code because we are not creating the data. So once you get the vector, we want to have this, so we don't need the, well, that's ln, min, or max. Actually, all we need in this case is the position, lm, and area. So we can get rid of the width. We can get rid of all of this. And so it's going to be basically this code. So const position, lm area. So say if area is less than large, country.lm.style is none. Hidden is equal to true. Continue. Country instead of country info.lm, it's going to be lm.area. So if the element.hidden is equal to false, copy the position, apply the matrix, camera to point, apply matrix 4 dot. So instead of country info, we're actually just basically just getting rid of country info. So get rid of all the country info in this thing. Yeah, let me add this up here. Console.log. Data loaded. So this is gonna go right here, and then all of this. Yeah. So after the for loop, I'm gonna say this dot label renderer dot render, this dot scene, this dot camera, and then this dot renderer dot render, this dot scene, this dot camera. And then I say else if the data hasn't been loaded, console.log no data loaded. So then I don't need particles with names. I can get rid of this. I don't need particles with names, can get rid of that. I don't need to add embassy points or embassy points names. I don't need to remove children or remove names. Don't need to close the model or do any of these clicking actions. So then I should just have the start animation frame. So we're going to have the request ID, controls, render.render, and then the handle resize is going to be the same. Inside of here, I just want title active, and then I want min area, and then max visible dot, and then I want the title, of course. So title, min, max, all of that. So inside of here, div ref equals this dot mount. Then I don't need the click or move, but I do need the data. So data is equal to this dot props dot polygon data, which if I go to app.js, that's what that's called. So then obviously this is going to be yelling at me. (115 degrees) is not defined. Oh, it's because it's supposed to be degree. So update visible elements. I think all of this needs to be moved up one. There we go. Okay, so now that we have this here, all we need now is the return method. So min area max visible dot. We have the reference in the data. So then I want to say is title active, then we want title name, all of that. Then I want to import the slider box, which I think I completed the slider box already. So let me go to my index. It's already there. So then let me come up here and from, okay, it's already imported here. Cool. So then inside of here, I want the title active, otherwise return that, and then I'm going to do slider box min area is equal to min area max visible dot is equal to max visible dot text 1 is equal to min area text 2 is equal to max visible dot function 1 is equal to, and we need to pass in default value type this dot update visible elements default value type. I don't need points added, don't need that. And then for slider box, just need to add the closing tag. Oh my goodness, 1 second. There we go. So then button box, add MC points names. It's just going to be this dot add objects events, and then that's basically it. Line 163. 163. Module, it's because I am importing the wrong thing. So globe with polygons .module.css. So then in the globe with polygon, it's the same as the globe. So it's just going to be we want the margin to be 0, and the font family to be sans serif. Okay, so then let me refresh this. And then just make sure this still works. Points. Okay. Now then, now that we have the globe, actually, let me go to my app.jss. Let me set polygon active to true and point active to false, just so that I can see what the point is. Okay, settings is right here. Settings is right there, and that's in my slider box. Let me go to my slider box. See, why is settings there when it should be hidden? That's because I'm using button box and not slider box. So let me change this to slider box. Let me just get rid of gutter bottom. because gutter mode does not need to exist. Inside of here, I'm going to put labels, position, relative. I thought I had this in my globe dot module, but I guess not. Okay. Position is relative, or position is absolute. And then z index is 0, left is 0, top is 0, color is white, and then I'm going to have the labels div, position is absolute, the left is 0, top is 0, cursor pointer, font size small, user select is going to be none, pointer events is going to be none. Actually, okay, so is title active? Oh, that's why. Yeah, so if the title is active, then I have to have that. Otherwise, I want to have that's why. This dot earthdiv dot text content is equal to name. It has to be my slider box. Oh, that's why. It's not capitalized. It's max visible dot. There we go. And that's how that works. Now I just need to implement the navigation bar. So let me get to the navigation bar. So I'll just copy button box, put it in navigation, React component styles, button is going to be the same. Instead of this, it's going to be navigation bar and navigation bar. So then instead of here, I'm going to say change to globe. Don't need that. And then I'm going to have change to globe in here. So change to globe is going to be event and type. So obviously event prevent default. If type triples equals to point, then this dot props dot function 1 event type, else if type is going to be equal to polygon, then the same thing. Don't need name click, can get rid of that. So then under render, return, inside of here I'm going to add a div. So this div is going to have a class name equal to styles.title, and then inside of here I'm just put in h3 navigation. And then Text 1, button contains, yeah, that stays the same. Navigation bar. So then let me go to my text.js. Let me add navigation bar. Navigation bar, and then this is importing navigation bar module.css. So navigation bar module.css, it is going to be essentially the same thing as button box module, but instead of button box height width top is going to be 5%, and then the left is going to be 3%. Everything else is going to be the same, and then I'm going to add title. Title top 4%. Text align is going to be center. Text emphasis is going to be bold. Align self is going to be center. Position is going to be fixed. Display is going to be flex, and then flex direction is going to be column. So then inside of my app.js, I'm going to import navigation bar. And so in my app.js, I'm going to have navigation bar, inside of here, text 1 is going to equal point globe, text 2 is going to equal polygon globe, then function, function 1 is going to equal event this dot change to globe, event point, and then function 2 polygon. Oops, wrong place to put that. Okay, so now if we refresh this, and that's because my app.js, I switched it. So let me make this true and this false. Oh, it's because it needs to be changed to globe for both. Else if type is equal to polygon, this dot props up function 2 point polygon. Oh, change globe event type event type event type event point. Back here, I bet that I misspelled it. did. Polygon, points, names, points. Okay. Polygon, names. And then if I move this, and there you go. And that is the end of this tutorial. I think I've been going for about 2 hours. Sorry about that. Hope you all enjoyed it. Again, this code, I'll leave the code for all this in the video as well as the description. And yep, this will probably be my last globe for a while, hopefully. Anyways, have a great time, everyone. Hope you all enjoy, and see you in the next video.